Welcome to Bible Over Brews News, headlines, and end times. I'm coming at you, Aaron Cruz Juice for Verk, and I've got Keith.
Blessings to you and all your same-sex acquaintances.
I've got Gumby.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year is the first newscast of the new year. And we will be starting with this delicious stuff that Gumby picked up. Chioso BBA baseball bat Masthead. This Imperial Stout was aged in bourbon barrels for 15 months with raspberries and peanut butter. But we left out the chunks of baseball bat for your safety. It's a 13.2 ABV. Oh, yeah.
Generous with this one, Fred.
Wait, is this based off of the meme, like the peanut butter jelly and a baseball bat?
I think
guess
so.
I didn't
think so.
Gosh, I just picked that up.
Yes, I think so.
Peanut butter jelly. Peanut butter jelly.
Peanut butter jelly and a baseball bat.
Peanut butter jelly time.
Peanut butter jelly time.
This is no toy, man.
Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Say where you go? Where you go? Where you go? Where you go? Peanut butter jelly. Peanut butter
Did you
jelly.
start it, Keith? I haven't even drunk yet.
Is there any hints on the can about it? It is.
Yep.
That guy's pretty. He's not exact, but he's pretty close.
He's
That
pretty
banana on the
close.
can.
He's pretty close.
Wow.
Mastheads.
Baseball bat.
You
Oh
do
my
it
God.
again.
Gents, here you go. There's your beer, Keith. And Gumby, there's your beer. And not a lot of head, but wow. That nose is I feel like I am smelling a chocolate banana.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Smelling money.
Like the nose on this, it makes me salivate. This is just, that's a dessert right there. I can smell the cherries. I can smell the cherries. Wow.
That's absolutely.
Oh, wow. Yeah. This is a birthday cake. That is delicious. What my wife does almost every Christmas, and this is because of my grandfather. My grandfather passed away in 2003, and he was like a second father to me, right? So I lived with him for a while, and one of the things he loved that he would share with me on Christmas was chocolate-covered cherries, and he and I would share that on Christmas, right? And I've loved chocolate-covered cherries ever since. This reminds me of chocolate-covered cherries.
Here's very nice with the Mile 82 from Cousins.
Oh, fantastic. Gumby, great pick. It has a great nose itself. Nice and earthy. And a nice draw. It's a very easy draw.
Very good. Yeah, very good draw.
I don't know if he's still there, but one of my my old classmates who was kind of like the class clown was working at Masthead, I think, in the actual brewing area, and I'm just wondering if he was behind this. But also a fun little thing, the designer of the can is one of our neighbors, Gumby.
No way.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that doesn't have her name on it, but that's the name of her firm.
Really?
Yeah.
That is so cool.
We've
Yeah, there it
we've
is.
done our podcast there a couple times, haven't we?
At Masthead?
Yeah.
We had one there. Unfortunately, it never aired because we had so many issues with the equipment.
Yes.
So what we need to do now, we did honor the brewery because they did a great job hosting us. In fact, we have one coming up for Goldhorn as well because they've been just so phenomenal to us. But we have one up right now for Masthead because they were so kind and courteous in helping us host that one.
Yeah, I mean, they got great food there, too. They're brick oven pizzas.
Oh, so good. Fun place.
But this,
That is so good. Wow.
that's pretty special.
That is amazing. That is, again, I do feel like it's Christmas morning and it's chocolate-covered cherries.
Yeah.
That is just phenomenal.
But this is all you need.
That's it.
I couldn't probably drink much
Right.
more than this.
I'm thinking my only possible problem with this is I can't soak up that 12% ABV fast enough for the news.
Yeah.
I don't know. We have one more can sitting here.
We do. But this, I mean, I'm just saying, and I don't mean this in a negative way towards Masthead. This isn't one that I could just throw back a can after can.
No.
Yeah,
No
this
summer
is,
candy.
One pint of
right.
this would be that's the whole night right there. One pint would last me the entire night.
just know that
It's-
going into it. Yep.
It's so thick, so good, so sweet. And this would be my entire night. One pint, that's it.
Yep.
Like you can guzzle Masthead's jalapeno.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
That's a great one.
Yeah,
I
that's a
love that
great one. I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Didn't they have a campfire one too?
Yes, they did. Yeah, and that was also delicious.
Yeah.
And then one of my favorites, outside of the jalapeno IPA, which is still one of my favorite IPAs, is their ice melter.
remember that one.
Ice melter is really good. It's, as I recall right, I believe it is an habanero, mango habanero.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, it's just so good, so delicious. It's the perfect balance of a little bit of spiciness, not a lot. It's tangy. It's not super spicy. It's tangy, with that nice balance of that sweet mango, and not overly sweet, but that nice delicate balance back and forth.
Yeah. And I think they have Masthead's has the best coffee beer out there.
Oh,
They're,
it's phenomenal.
I forgot what's the name of it.
Yeah, it's one of their underverses, right?
I don't know if it's an underverse. I think it's the Ethiopian.
Oh yeah,
Single origins.
Yes, single origins.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man, that's so good.
it's fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Good job, Mastheads. We are going to allow you to stay in business 2024.
That's right. So, Keith, before we get into deeper subjects, what you got for us?
That's what I got. I mean, I was ready to talk about a deeper subject.
Okay, well,
Well,
in that case, go ahead.
I could hit very briefly. I think we're going to give it fuller treatment later,
Okay.
but we could hit really quick on this college president anti-Semitism thing.
Hit us with
Just
your
to
best
give,
shot, Keith.
just to get Gumby warmed up a little bit.
Let's do it.
All right.
And then after that, I'll hit a little bit of conspiracy theory.
All right.
So go ahead.
Woo. Okay, so what was this? Early December? I think it's December 6th. Some reason that date just sticks in my mind. There was this congressional hearing where they brought the presidents of Harvard, Penn State, and MIT to Congress. So Elise Stefanik, who is just she wasn't Trumpy until she found out it would be great for her career. Congresswoman from New York. So she got her viral moments on TV where she could spin it that these presidents were not denouncing violent, quote unquote, violent hate speech against Jewish students on campus. I can't remember. I won't pull up the exact quotes or whatever, but basically, she was trying to spin that the protests that were pro-Palestinian on the campuses were descending into violent hate speech, based on the selection of particular terms or slogans that maybe in some contexts, if they're accompanied by real threats of violence, could be quite obvious hate speech, but were used and cited by many pro-Palestinian activists that these have meanings that are about for instance, from the river to the sea is one of the quotes.
It's probably the main one.
Yeah. So, one side will say this is a clear a call for genocide, for the eradication of the Israeli state, while others will be like, no, this is about, we want freedom. We want our freedom for our people in this entire territory.
Okay.
And the key thing that the presidents did do something stupid, at least 2 out of 3 did something very stupid, which is they walked in this thing completely unprepared for how would they get taken out of context. And then the way they described that, hey, whether something is hate speech is actually it depends on the circumstances. You can't just pull a quote out of thin air or generalize what happened and say that's definitely hate speech and isn't allowed. So, Elise Stefanik got her viral moment. The president of Penn State was resigning within days. Claudine Rieu was the president of Harvard.
Yep.
She did not resign immediately, but then later, Chris Rufo, who is this right-wing provocateur, whatever, we could probably do a whole episode on Chris Rufo, but that would probably suck. He ginned up these claims of plagiarism. I got at least the high-level thing of it, and it basically was like, oh, she didn't properly cite something in a paper like 2 decades ago or something like that. It was like more like a clerical error than like an actual like real intentional plagiarism. And so then within a few days after that, she did resign. So
she knew the fix was in.
My summary is that this whole thing in at least the last decade was like the stupidest instance of like media, like brainwashed, like just everybody going along with the most convenient position ever, like thing, at least in the last decade for me. Like it just, we are in the stupidest news cycle, which is unfortunate because there is real serious crap happening. There is significant violence against innocent people that really should be the focus of every effort, no matter what side you're on, is to end this violence against, you know, really everybody, but in particular, as Israel is waging their offensive and in the efforts to oust Hamas from the Gaza Strip. I've killed tens of thousands of Palestinian citizens.
We're beyond 20.
Yeah, beyond 20.
So wait, so what you're saying is they're creating a smoke screen so that we won't see real news and we'll get upset about things that don't really matter. Interesting. I may not be the most stout conspiracy theorist, but
See what you did there.
go ahead, continue.
That was most of one of my. So one other thing I will add is you might be asking yourself, you know, I'm not an expert like you, Keith, on news and global events and all these things. How did you, when you saw these sound bites that sounded terrible, it sounded like these college professors were condoning violence on the floor of the House of Representatives. How did you know right away how could you know right away that this was BS?
You watch C-SPAN?
No, I don't watch C-SPAN. I don't have cable. And actually, I know practically nothing about the Israeli-Palestine conflict. Like, this is the most I've learned about it in the last month, and I'm still just, it's not one of those things, it's not nearly like the gay stuff we're going to talk about later, where I'm really up on that. No, here's how I know.
Wait. Just to be clear, you said you're up on gay stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Keep going.
Here's how I was so able to quickly pick up that this was a smokescreen. I saw the clip, and I saw that it was Elise Stefanik. That's all I had to do. All I had to know is that it was one of the most self-serving members of Congress.
Okay.
That was looking for her moment. That was also one of the leaders of one of the least productive Congresses in history. That one that can't even keep their own coalition together to have an actual, Speaker of the House elected for any considerable period of time. And she is looking for anything to make it look like they're productive going into an election. And so for her, that means that she's going to look like she is rooting out anti-Semitism on college campuses.
Huh. So she's taking a different spin on what Vivek is doing.
Wait, where's our bell? I would ding the bell if we had a bell. All right. Ding.
That sounds a lot like some of the misdirects we get from Mr. Vivek. So.
Oh, I forgot I forgot about that guy.
How could you forget? He won't let you.
I was like, Vivek. I was like, is that like it almost sounded like Tribeca. I was like, that's a film festival.
So yeah,
he's the Sheldon of politics. Go ahead.
That's terrible. Where's the other bell? Buzzard. That gets the buzzard. I definitely agree with you and all of that in regards to that. I think the whole thing is kind of predicated on that some of the Jewish community within the college campuses were starting to say that they felt unsafe because of this, and all of a sudden it wasn't a safe place anymore for Jewish students. Okay. I find that rather interesting. They are very, I'm going to get the words out, especially within the Ivy League schools. We're talking about Harvard, and what's the other one that was in the mix?
MIT.
Your average student cannot get in there. You're already somewhat wealthy if you're getting into these schools. There is a high percentage of Jewish kids who get in there.
Well, it's a generational thing too. Whereas if you're a wealthy family, you're almost guaranteed your kids will be returning.
You're very privileged, and these kids go on to be, these are your highly influential people. Maybe they go into politics. Maybe they go into whatever.
Oh, hands down.
So
that's where it all starts.
There is that aspect of privilege and wealth that I just want to get out there. It exists for them. So now this group feels unsafe because of, the pro-Palestinian side who are speaking up about it. So like you, Keith, I really don't buy that. I think it is being used as a smokescreen while an actual genocide is taking place. They're complaining that their speech or whatever it is they're advocating, from the river to the sea or whatever else they may support Palestinians on, could lead to that, when in real time it's actually happening to Palestinians today.
Yeah.
So for me, it's projection. That's wealth and privilege projection. I'm going to say that again. It is privilege projection. They are projecting the things that are actually happening now to them.
Yeah.
So, and the other aspect to that is that a lot of these Ivy League schools, and I just have to say it because I was reading about Mr. Ackman for Harvard, they're huge donors to the school. Millions. I think he donated like 40 to 50 million himself to Harvard. That's some sway and control that you hold over them. And when this started happening, he got on a call with his peers, very organized, and they decided to make some things happen. And then that predicated that meeting.
Yeah. And that actually underscores what, as much as this has been kind of portrayed as a right-wing coup, sort of, so to speak, actually what it is it's like far left versus center left. And so it's intra, political alignment fighting between universities. And there's a big effort on the right to paint universities as extremely liberal places. And they're, bastions of diversity, which kind of has been associated with liberalism, but they have been historically in the control of center-left folks. So, and that, this is this one issue that kind of turns the Democratic Party into crazy infighting town, because this is where all of a sudden your median senator seems actually quite conservative, even on the left. The one thing I wanted, I'm still catching up on like Ackman stuff. Like I've barely heard of the guy, and I just know he has a ton of money, and he seems almost like an activist shareholder, but for universities.
One of many.
But the one thing I would point out is so I don't know, there could be credible like threats of either threats of violence or things that just, legitimately make, Jewish students or even allies of Jewish students feel uncomfortable on campus. And it is totally acceptable to address that. The issue I take here is that the way it's been portrayed, and the first cause of this is actually the professors. So 2 out of 3 of those presidents are gone. The one who isn't gone, the MIT president, she said when asked about threats of violence against Jewish students, she said she was not aware of any. And when Elise Stefanik pressed her again, she denied. And whether that's completely accurate or not, she, at least much better than the other two, saw that that Elise Stefanik was trying to bait her. So these 2 professors should have been much more prepared, even to the point of possibly declining, at least temporarily, the invitation, knowing that this was a witch hunt. It was pretty obvious when you see the people involved, when you don't even see the specific people involved, but you just know that it's this particular House of Representatives. you should be prepared for that.
Yeah.
Knowing everything that's gone on in the past 2 years. And I think there is a much better answer that doesn't fall into something that gets clipped and sounds terrible when you're actually talking about, yeah, absolutely. If there are credible threats against our Jewish student population, we will address those. We handle that. We are much closer to this than you are, Elise Stefanik, than you are Republicans of Congress, than you are many Democrats of Congress, because many Democrats called for the same resignations. They fell right into the same pit. And we are going to actually gather all the facts. We are going to be very aware of what is going on our campus. We are going to be promoters of free speech, but we are also going to keep a strong eye on things.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, I heard someone else say on the pro-Jewish side that they just didn't go far enough to protect them. They, you know, went so far, but they didn't go far enough.
Yeah.
So whatever that implies. But the other couple things that are at play here is that while I do think it can't serve as a smokescreen, I don't truly think that it is a smokescreen. I don't think that they want legitimate dialogue taking place at the highest level in our education in America. Because
I would agree.
If dialogue truly happens, then, you know, progress could be made and you could actually, you know, spark change. The other thing that's at play is that there are a large portion of Jews and in the Jewish community and students who are advocating for the Palestinians.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is not like the majority of, you know, Jewish kids in college who are making this claim that they feel unsafe. These are very select few with wealthy dads like Mr. Ackman who can make things happen. And so I in a nutshell, I think it's extortion. They're holding, you know, you're not going to see a dime, Harvard, of my millions and millions of dollars anymore.
Yeah.
Until you squash this. What else do you call it?
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. You know, and Keith, we know you're a liberal, so you have to support Palestine. We get it. So,
but apparently not. A lot of liberals support Israel. Who knows?
Just kidding. No. It's so. I've always firmly felt that mainstream news will put that 10% of truth out there, and then put 90% of BS out there, just to steer you in the wrong direction on purpose. Because if it was all truth, we could unite on a few things. And as long as it's a bunch of BS, we fight about things. And as long as they're dividing the common people, the elites stay in charge. And that's really what it comes down to. As long as we fight over things down here, they get to watch the circus. So.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, you know, the irony is that the narrative already has been lost on I would say, the Zionist Israeli side overall. I mean, they're trying to control it as best they can now. But the majority feels that way and sympathizes with the Palestinians and not even necessarily with Hamas or anything like that. That I feel they're using as a smokescreen.
Yeah.
You know, when Hamas, they're into the rocks. They're behind the walls. They're in the churches. They were right behind those two nuns that they shot right in the Catholic Church. You know, they're everywhere. They're in your plumbing. So that's the smokescreen, right?
I knew somebody was watching me at night.
When really it's about ethnic cleansing. They want them all out. And, you know, I've always said this from the beginning. The ultimate victims of the Zionist ideology will be the large majority of the Jewish people.
Yeah.
Because they will sacrifice them at the cost of their political agenda. So we're seeing that.
Yeah. No, that is true. Yeah. I mean, the trouble is that, again, I really do feel it's the way that people frame things to stay in charge. It's all corporate, right? It's all corporations. Corporations stay in power by dividing and conquering. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, Bibi Netanyahu, man, he's been avoiding jail for a long time now.
Yeah. All right. So.
All right. Thanks for starting off. Thanks for throwing us the softball.
Yeah. So
just here to get you riled up.
So diving deeper, Mandela effect. Who wants to dive deep into the Mandela effect?
Sounds like you.
How many people know what the Mandela effect is?
I've heard of the term.
All right. So the Mandela effect refers to a situation in which a large mass of people believe that an event occurred when it did not. The term was originated in 2009 by Fiona Broom after she had discovered she, along with a number of others, believed that Nelson Mandela had died in the 1980s when he actually died in 2013. Now, I have not dived into the Mandela side of it because, like many others, I actually do remember him dying in 1988. Right? It's really weird. I recall that. It's really weird. I'm not diving into that side of it, but the effect itself is very interesting. And one thing that people swear by, I'm just taking one little piece of this, is that the Monopoly Man had a monocle. So did the Monopoly Man ever have a monocle? That's the question. Go ahead, Keith. Did he?
I'm looking at your screen. And I can't tell if that was a Monopoly Man with a monocle because they were trying to create the false memory, or if it really had a monocle.
Did he?
And now I just can't stop thinking about Mr. Peanut as a result.
So I'm glad you touched on that. So the idea is that the Monopoly Man never had a monocle, okay? That's the idea. And that everybody remembers him having a monocle because everyone associates him with Mr. Peanut. Same hat, right? He has the big top hat. He looks very similar in nature. And he wears a monocle. So people associate that, and they say, well, but everybody remembers him with a monocle. Yeah, but in America, we've always had Mr. Peanut. So what do you think, Keith? Is that what it is?
Oh, I thought you were just telling me what it was. Now I don't know anymore.
No, you aced it. You actually,
I did? Okay.
You actually aced the idea.
I mean, once you questioned it, that's where my brain immediately went as I went to the other monocled thing stuck in my head.
And that is the story.
There were two monocled things in the woods. Apparently there was only one, but they went together.
Was there only one? So here's the trouble. Everybody remembers the Monopoly Man having a monocle. I'm going to recall something. Who here in this room ever watched Ace Ventura, Pet Detective?
Oh, yeah.
Who watched Ace Ventura 2?
Oh, yeah.
Who remembers him imitating the Monopoly guy at the party, putting the fox over his shoulders, acting like he's the Monopoly guy?
All I can think about when I think about Ace Ventura 2 is him coming out of the elephant's butt.
Well, okay, there's that. So during a house party inside Ace Ventura 2, he throws a fox over his shoulders, acting like he's a Monopoly guy, and he's slapping guys around and causing chaos. He's wearing a monocle, is he not? Yeah, he is. He's wearing a monocle. Okay. Where they refer to the Monopoly guy in different pop culture symbols, he almost always has a monocle. And yet, the company swears he's never had a monocle. And they did pull up years and years and years, all the way back to the beginning. They said, see, he's never had a monocle.
Interesting.
Dang.
So what do you think, Keith?
I stand corrected. It was a rhinoceros.
I was going to say that. But I let it go. It's the unicorn of Africa.
I don't know what to think anymore. I'm just completely confused.
See?
I'm going to crawl right into an rhinoceros.
Keith is having
so confused.
Keith is having his own Mandela effect.
You're not even here tonight, Keith.
See, I thought everybody had a false memory that he crawled out of an elephant's butt. There you go.
I'm going to throw one wrench into that for you because people across the UK also remember him with a monocle.
Oh, my.
And Mr. Peanut was not introduced there until 2013. No, I stand corrected, 2016. So if Mr. Peanut didn't appear until 2016 in the UK, why does everybody in the UK remember him with a monocle?
How all the people dressed.
Well,
Okay, wait, there's got to be some I can't remember a bunch of like famous media figures, but I feel like there's got to be some like actor or something that wore a monocle in some show or some animated thingamajig over there.
nope.
Oh, dang.
Believe it or not, the company got it wrong.
Oh, they put a monocle on him?
So, believe it or not, the reason why many of us people who were kids in the 90s remember him with a monocle is because of Monopoly Jr. on the $2 bill.
Oh,
He had a monocle.
Oh, snap. I never had Monopoly Jr. though.
Yeah. So there it is right there. See him? He has a monocle.
Never in a million years.
See that?
Yep.
So it turns out that the reason why a lot of us who grew up in the 90s remember him with a monocle in every country is because in Monopoly Jr., he had a monocle on the $2 bill. Which explains, at least for this one thing, the Mandela effect.
Dang.
Now, I'm assuming you have set some larger event associated with the Mandela effect.
Oh, huge, yeah. And we'll, as we do our news episodes, and I can dive a little deeper. I'm working on one right now. We'll dive into different little conspiracy theories so we can insert them into our news broadcast to find out which ones are true and which ones are not. But in this instance of the Mandela effect, we have shown that there was a reason for it. All right. I'll give you one more since we're here. And the Mandela effect.
Yeah, throw us a bone.
Is it Berenstain Bears or Berenstein Bears? Because many people like myself remember that it was the Berenstein Bears or Berenstein Bears, right? However, the company swears and the family swears it's always been Berenstain Bears, which is their last name.
I've heard of this, yeah.
So what is it?
I always said Berenstain, but I'm just a caveman.
Gumby?
Well, I feel like some of the books that we have says Steen. S-T-E-I-N, right?
Nope. It says Berenstain.
Stain. So you're saying...
Have an answer. I dug into this one too.
They spell it wrong once.
I dug into this one. Ready for the answer? For those people who grew up with VHS, there's a misprint on the VHS tapes that says Berenstein Bears. So those of us here in the U.S., possibly in the U.K. as well, but definitely the U.S., if you grew up with VHS tapes like I did,
Yeah.
there was a misprint on the VHS tapes, and it did say Berenstein Bears.
And our minds stuck with it. We ran with it.
Yes. So tonight I have explored, earlier today, I did explore 2 Mandela effects, and I did find answers for 2 of them. So it's fairly interesting.
We should do a deep dive on the late religious transformation of the Berenstain Bears.
You were way deeper than I was. So I can't speak for the rest of it yet because I haven't dived any deeper, but I do have 2 answers for 2 parts of the Mandela effect.
So really, with this filter now, we can use this filter and pick whatever historical event that happened and see if we can apply it over that.
There's one I'm looking at right now. Could be some really weird espionage stuff going on. So we'll find out later because I'm trying to parse it. I'm getting 2 different stories, but it has to do with another company. A possible chemical accident and possibly trying to hide some stuff, which would explain their Mandela effect. We'll find out. I don't want to drag their name into it because one person already got in trouble for this, obviously, when you go for corporations. But so I'm going to dive deeper into it first before we actually roll it back out. But
does it mean the same thing as like Wag the Dog with Dustin Hoffman? And
I think a lot of it's just confusion.
They needed to fake a war because the president was in so much scandal. I forgot who else was in the movie with Hoffman. It may have been Julia
Possibly.
Roberts. I don't. So they needed
Possibly.
a fake war, and they just created it. They pushed it all over the TV and the media,
Well,
and we all, the public, believed we were in an actual war. Meanwhile, this gets skirted underneath.
I think we dive deep into
Is that the same
that
idea?
side of it. No. It's another thing similar to what we're talking about now, except there's a possibility they hid something from the public to protect something else. So we'll dive deeper into that after I get a little more investigation on it. But I have been able to dive in and explain at least two parts of the Nelson Mandela effect. At least two things. And then we'll dive deeper into other parts of conspiracy theory. I'm kind of enjoying this. We'll dive a little deeper into conspiracy theory and a few other topics. There's two I'm looking at for Mandela effects right now, and then we'll dive into other things later. But it's fun to be able to go through and either affirm or debunk. And I've been able to affirm that these two are correct, even if they're not truly Mandela effect after all. So there you go.
Always knew Tupac was alive.
That's right. Well, hello. He's hanging out with Elvis.
And Epstein.
Right. There's
Speaking of other news, we're not getting to this time.
Let's not definitely. We can spend a whole episode on Epstein. There's so
Stay
much
tuned for
there.
our Epstein special.
Let's just say that I have dived a little deeper into Epstein, and there's a whole bunch of stuff there. But that will be an entire episode because there is so much there. So much
Everybody's
there.
taking a bath after that one.
You're going to need it would probably be an After Dark episode because tonight we'll be doing our preview for our Bible of a Brews After Dark. Because there will be more adult content oriented stuff on the After Dark episode where we don't really want kids to hear it, right? And
% more gay at least.
we dive a little deeper. And, there's no filter. We won't have a filter on the after hours stuff. We'll actually say things that we want to say.
In during hours.
We still do. We still maintain a slight filter. There will be no filter on the after hours stuff. And we'll actually say the things we want to say.
Straight from the hose.
So, Gumby.
Yeah.
Do we want to open the second can or go into the first can? Which do you want to finish this next can off?
If you guys are ready for the next one, we can. We can just say.
I'm going to leave it to you because you brought these delicious things. They're fantastic. And so I just want to know if you wanted to open the second can of the same flavor.
Oh.
Or dive into the next flavor.
It's totally up to you guys.
Oh, no. You brought these delicious treats.
What's your other flavor?
Well, do you guys have more? You drinking now? Or are you done?
I can finish this off.
I have one sip.
I have 2 sips.
I mean,
Gone.
I feel like, at least right now, let's just try a different one.
All right. So, Underverse Tiramisu.
Let's do it.
Keith, you want to grab it?
Absolutely.
So while Keith is grabbing that, during its time in bourbon barrels, this beer slumbered with Madagascar, vanilla beans, cocoa nibs, and 6-shooter coffee beans. We then infused this batch with hazelnuts, resulting in a rich, bold, stout, reminiscent of delectable tiramisu. It's an ABV of 12%. And we have to hold off while Keith gets a selfie.
That is an amazing
It's a half
can.
Yeah. I've never seen a half growler.
Yeah, it's
like a can like that.
you gotta start hanging out with us more, Keith. Ready? And
Yeah.
all right.
You know what's so funny is that they wouldn't let a whole growler go out like that, but I could buy 2 of those.
So if you bring your own growler, they'll let it out.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even think about that.
So if you want to have some growlers, you can take home.
yeah, no, I have them at home. I didn't even
That's like what I'm used to with a growler. Okay.
Gents, if you want to pass your glasses over. All right, there we go. Gumby. There we go. All right. This right here is the delectable. It's been a while since we had this one. We've had it in the past once before. But here's the cool thing. It changes a bit year to year because the batches are never 100% the same from year to year.
This is their Underverse collection.
And Underverse from Masthead is always amazing.
Look at that color.
I know.
Like, I mean, it's just the way the light.
As I pour this is darker than chocolate. Here you go. There you go. Gents, cheers.
Cheers.
So the nose
Doesn't smell much different than the last one.
No, it actually has a slight. It's a little more subtle, but there's far more vanilla. I can smell the vanilla on the top of this.
This has a bite to it, right at you.
Oh my! Whoa!
Ooh.
Whoa!
Okay, so right at the top. So I love tiramisu, the dessert. I love tiramisu. This is like enjoying a nice espresso while having a tiramisu.
Yeah, I could see that. I was definitely getting more of the coffee.
Yeah. This is exactly like, and that's actually how I like my tiramisu, is sipping it with a coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just like that. This is my dessert and my coffee rolled into one. This is delectable.
Oh, this is dangerously smooth.
Another dessert beer.
It is.
We need more.
Sure.
We ate pizza today, but I'm thinking we should have just been ordering cake or something.
Right? That is fantastic. Wow. That is so good.
All right, who sells
So
delivery cake this hour?
What I love is that there's,
Cookies.
Usually what I don't like about stouts or imperials is that sometimes it's too bitter.
Yeah, I agree.
There is nothing bitter about this.
Nothing. It is amazingly smooth. There's a depth to it. As I've said before, with beers like this beer's got base.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is nice. You could taste the cacao. You could taste the 6-shooter coffee. I mean, the Madagascar vanilla beans beautifully bleeds through.
I kind of want to wear a robe when I drink this. I'm going to be honest.
That's 6-shooter coffee? I missed that. I haven't been a 6-shooter in a while.
Yeah, that's who Mastheads use for their
Nice.
beers and all that stuff.
That is delightful.
Oh, man.
And I'm catching the hazelnuts. I'm catching on the aftertaste.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much on the front side. The front side, it's all cacao and coffee. On the back side, right after you swallow, that's when I'm getting the hazelnut.
That's just really good.
Oh, it's beautiful. Like I said, it's kind of weird because like the vanilla bleeds through a little on both sides. It kind of like bleeds into the flavors.
This is a dangerous one because I know that if my wife were here, she would drink it too because of just the initial taste.
Yeah.
But, she'll be walking on Nerf in no time.
It's really weird to feel like a beer like that is light, but it's like light compared to the one we just had.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So Keith said that he wants to get gay.
Heck yeah.
So, Keith, about Fiducia Supplicans.
What about it?
Kazoo type what?
Let's go.
Your initial impressions.
My initial impressions.
Your initial impressions. Without even diving into the document yet. Your initial impressions.
I mean, you always get a little excited as someone who would like to see more LGBTQ inclusion in the church when you hear that there's same-sex blessings for couples.
Okay, wait, I'm the non-Catholic, so give me some background.
Yeah, I feel like we need the background first. Yeah. What is this thing?
That's good. Okay, so for the non-Catholics out there.
Heck, for me too. It's confusing.
The Pope introduced, and actually this is a response to his dubia. So there is currently...
What's a dubia? What was that dubia?
I'm glad you asked. All right, so there's currently right now a a synod right now. It's actually aptly named the Synod on Synodality. So that is currently ongoing until I think next October, right? Or this coming October.
We had an episode on it.
We did, but it's ongoing until this coming October.
Yeah.
So, and this is a synod is a team or a group of people to discuss matters within the church and which direction it should be going. And it's more of a discussion than anything. Don't think of it as matters of faith. They're not going to develop doctrine out of it or anything else. It's more about a talk about which direction the church should go, and it's the conversation that's being held for it. It's not meant as a direction for doctrine. So, and that's where I think a lot of confusion comes from. A lot of people think, oh, they're going to change the church. It's not meant to be that. It's actually meant to be a conversation between the parties that are being held for that particular synod. In this case, the Synod on Synodality is meant to be between the leadership of the church, the laity of the church, a.k.a. those who attend the parishes, and also other leaders within church hierarchy. So it's meant to kind of bring those things together. Now, one of the reasons why I feel, and I think it really plays forward, Pope Francis has taken a lot of crap, is because he leads differently than previous popes. Why, you may ask? He is a pope of the people from South America. So that's hugely different, culturally speaking, than previous popes. Most popes previously presented themselves as the leader of the church and led from top down. That is very traditional in most hierarchies across wherever you're at, whether you're talking about a company or whether you're talking about a country, right? So most places lead from top down. Pope Francis is not that pope. He leads more or less from the bottom up. So we're talking about the pope that refused to fly first class because he wanted to sit with the people. So he sold his first class tickets and rode coach. He walked to the Vatican instead of taking a limousine. He lives in the servants' quarters. He actually leads from the position of the people. And the people who are the blue-collar people of this world truly kind of appreciate that, honestly. We kind of appreciate the fact that he's the Pope that sees things from our point of view. I love him for that. I love the fact that we now have a blue-collar Pope that leads from the people. And I'll take all the hate for it, but I really do love that. I love that. Why do I love that? Jesus was a God that led from the people. He didn't sit there and hang out with Pharisees and Sadducees. He wasn't hanging out with kings. What did he do? He led from the people. He sat with prostitutes. He sat with tax collectors. He sat with the sinners. He sat with people that were the disrepute. These were the people that were looked down upon in society. These were the garbage, quote unquote, that the hierarchy said should not have any voice. Jesus didn't think so. Jesus sat with them and talked with them. In fact, the only time, look this up, please read your Bibles to look this up, the only time that Christ actually had harsh words was towards leadership, was actually towards people in positions of authority. Those were the people he spoke harshly about. He never spoke harshly to sinners. Not only that, he tried to alleviate the burdens of sinners. He tried to help the sinners find the proper path. He tried to help them get out of their sin. And he did that through love and care like a good father would. And I think that right there is where Pope Francis is trying to lead. And that's why he has the people's heart like me who come from the blue-collar side of society. So does it help?
Is this
That helps, but now let's describe what Fiducia Supplicans is.
Okay.
Fiducia was part of the synod?
So this is go back to dubia. Okay, so dubia are questions that are proposed. Okay, so there are questions that were proposed to the Synod on Synodality. And one of those things that one of the fathers had presented was a question on people from same-sex unions. And so this was a direct response to that question.
So this was an open forum that they could ask questions?
That's, yeah. Certain people within the synod can, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, not everybody. I mean, he's not going to take 8 billion people's questions.
These are usually questions like actually from bishops, right?
Yeah, from bishops and cardinals, yeah.
And this wasn't the first time in recent years that this question that can same-sex unions be blessed has been answered. I believe it was in early 2021 when this was where the kind of infamous quote, "We cannot bless sin," quote unquote, came out. So just a couple years ago, the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, this chief doctrinal body in the Vatican, answered this question in the negative. And now, in some sense, depending on how you take it with Fiducia Supplicans, they are answering it in the affirmative, that they can bless, I should say, couples who are in a same-sex union, but they can't bless the union.
Right.
Summarize that, right?
I think you did that quite well. So, and again, this is meant to be something that helps people down that path of becoming more saint-like, right? And the document itself, I thought, did a beautiful job in that. So one of the opening statements, this is verse 3 from the document. It says, "The above-mentioned responsum elicited numerous and various reactions. Some welcomed the clarity of the document and its consistency with the Church's perennial teaching. Others did not share the negative response it gave to the question, or did consider the formulation of its answer and the reasons in the attached explanatory note to the sufficiently clear. To meet the latter reaction with fraternal charity, it seems opportune to take up theme again and offer a vision that draws together the doctrinal aspects with the pastoral ones in a coherent manner because, quote, all religious teaching ultimately has to be reflected in the teaching way of life, which awakens the assent of the heart by its nearness, love, and witness, close quote. And so right there you can see they're trying to respond to the questions in a loving and responsive way, not something that's going to be taken abstractly. Now, it goes on to verse 4. Pope Francis's recent response to the second of the 5 questions posed by 2 cardinals offers an opportunity to explore this issue further, especially in its pastoral implications. It is a matter of avoiding that, quote, something that is not marriage is being recognized as marriage, close quote. Therefore, rites and prayers that could create confusion between what constitutes marriage, which is the, quote, exclusive, stable, and indissoluble union between a man and woman, naturally open to the generation of children, close quote, and what contradicts it are inadmissible. This conviction is grounded in the perennial Catholic doctrine of marriage. It is only in the context that sexual relations find their natural, proper, and fully human meaning. The Church's doctrine on this point remains firm. So, again, right within the document, it's saying that the sacrament of marriage itself cannot be the sacrament of marriage can only be blessed as union. So, and it was very explicitly put that way.
It is. It's also worded very carefully.
Very carefully. And so I like the fact that they took that time because there was a lot of the ultra-conservative side of the church that are still trashing this document. And yet right from the beginning of the document, it states that marriage is between a man and a woman. And here's the thing, because there's a lot of Catholics out there that have said, oh, we're not going to have children. Even that union can't be blessed. The only marriage that can be blessed are those that are open to children. That's what constitutes a marriage, a man and woman in procreation. And so there's a lot of people on the ultra-conservative side that are trashing this document, and yet right from its beginning, it lays that foundation. That being said, there is more. So I'm going to jump down to verse 11. I really I picked certain verses for this so that way we can really dive into the meanings of it. There you go, Keith. That popped up for you. Basing itself on these considerations, the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith's explanatory note to its 2021 responsum recalls that when a blessing is invoked on certain human relationships by a special liturgical rite, it is necessary that what is blessed corresponds with God's designs written in creation and fully revealed by Christ the Lord. For this reason, since the Church has always considered only those sexual relations that are lived out within marriage to be morally illicit, the Church does not have the power to confer its liturgical blessing when that would be somehow offered a form of moral legitimacy to a union that presumes to be a marriage, or to an extramarital or sexual practice. The Holy Father reiterated the substance of this declaration in his Requestes to the dubia of two cardinals. So, again, that's defining what we just said in the previous verse. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Jumping all the way down to verse 21. In order to help us understand the value of a more pastoral approach to blessings, Pope Francis urges us to contemplate with an attitude of faith and fatherly mercy the fact that, quote, when one asks for a blessing, one is expressing a petition for God's assistance, a plea to live better, and confidence in a Father who can help us live better, close quote. This request should, in every way, be valued, accompanied, and received with gratitude. People who come spontaneously to ask for a blessing show by this request their sincere openness to transcendence, the confidence of their hearts that they do not trust in their own strength alone, their need for God, and their desire to break out of the narrow confines of this world, enclosed in its limitations. And jumping on to verse 25 rather. The Church, moreover, must shy away from resting its pastoral praxis on the fixed nature of certain doctrinal or disciplinary schemes, especially when they lead to a narcissistic and authoritarian elitism, where instead of evangelizing, one analyzes and classifies others, and instead of opening the door to grace, one exhausts his or her energies in inspecting and verifying. Close quote. Thus, when people ask for a blessing, an exhaustive moral analysis should not be placed as a precondition for conferring it, for those seeking a blessing should not be required to have a prior moral perfection. Before moving on, I'm going to let Keith open up.
So this will be my most rosy thing I probably say, but the line at the end of 25 is actually my favorite thing about the document, is the an exhaustive moral analysis should not be placed as a precondition for conferring a blessing. It probably speaks to like the vast importance of this document beyond same-sex unions, or like the other unions it's talking about, like for instance of a divorced and remarried, a civilly remarried Catholic.
It's in ferdinandness.
Yeah. So the like, what am I trying to say here? It's something where we're trying to fundamentally change how we approach people who don't do the outwardly things that indicate you're in good standing in the in crowd in Catholicism, especially in the conservative variety, where like it's not like nobody goes around and says, oh, we're perfect, we're not sinners, but also there's like certain sins that are like okay and there's certain sins that are not. And so like the ones that like you should not admit, let alone do, would be like gay stuff. It would be anything, as Pope Francis has called them, the sins below the waist.
Yeah.
He's
living outside of the confines of marriage is one of those.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I always think back to like one of the books I read from Pope Francis. The Name of the Lord is Mercy, which was like an interview with somebody he kind of did. I forget who the person he was interviewing, but basically him explaining like how the mercy of God should be generous, and like how a priest or a pastor or some minister should always look for an opening to help, confer God's mercy. And so this is that direct speaking, regardless of like what moral issue it's about, that is this primary duty of a minister to be demonstrating the love of God without preconditions. So this is like a very beautiful and very universally applicable, and also very specifically speaking to a persistent issue that is plaguing the church today. This passage is very important for that.
What else spoke to you? Because there was something that screamed at me. I want you to go back up, but halfway down, and I want you to read that quote and tell you what screams to you. The actual quote itself.
Oh, a narcissistic and authoritarian elitism, whereby instead of evangelizing, one analyzes and classifies others instead of opening the door to grace.
Yep.
One exhausts his or her energies in inspecting and verifying.
What does that tell you?
I mean, I could say a lot of things, but
I just hinted at it before I even started this. He leads how?
From the bottom up.
I saw this as him screaming at leadership. This is in quotes. I literally saw, and I could be wrong, but I literally saw Pope Francis yelling at leadership and telling them, stop being a Pharisee. Stop being a Sadducee. We're here to save people's souls. We're not here to try to bend people over our rule books.
And a mark of this Pope has not only been how like openly critical of that tendency he has been, but even how specific he has pointed at the church in the United States, who's probably, at least in terms of like Catholic mass media, is probably the worst offender in terms of spreading this message of exclusion all over the country and all over the world. Like there's so many YouTube priests who preach exclusion classification. I remember listening to a homily from a priest in South Carolina. This is what I do on YouTube. This is why I don't watch enough streaming, is I actually go on YouTube and listen to somebody I know I'm going to disagree with just to see if there's anything new that should help me reevaluate my priors. And I listened to this one priest, and he's describing like how it's the duty of the parents in there to make sure their kid doesn't go to a sleepover where the parents of their friends are lesbians. Like that's to the level of like specificness they're getting, that you must keep yourself pure. It's really like it's a new purity culture, really, that you cannot even be associated. You can't be within 100 feet of these people who are considered guilty of this specific type of sin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who did Jesus have dinner with?
Lepers, right?
Lepers, prostitutes, tax collectors. That kind of leads us to
I wonder if they're worshiping the same God.
So in verse 27, it says, in the catechesis cited at the beginning of this declaration, Pope Francis proposed a description of this kind of blessing that is offered to all without requiring anything. It is worth reading these words with an open heart, for they help us grasp the pastoral meaning of blessings offered without preconditions. Quote, it is God who blesses. In the first pages of the Bible, there is a continual repetition of blessings. God blesses, but humans also give blessings. And so it turns out the blessing processes a special power which accompanies those who receive it through their lives and disposes man's heart to be changed by God. So we are more important to God than all the sins we can commit, because He is Father, He is Mother, He is pure love. He has blessed us forever, and He will never stop blessing us. It is a power experience to read the biblical texts of blessing in a prison or in a rehabilitation center group, to make those people feel that they are still blessed, notwithstanding their serious mistakes, that their Heavenly Father continues to will their good, and to hope that they will ultimately open themselves to the good, even if their closest relatives have abandoned them, because they now judge them to be irredeemable. God will always see them as His children. Close quote.
Interesting.
Tell me how deep that quote is right there.
Yeah, you read something there that really piqued my interest. And if I may be devil's advocate here, because I'm the only non-Catholic, and I'm trying to wrap my mind around this, like in a real practical, real world sense, what does this, let's say, a gay couple comes to the church, the Catholic Church, and asks to be blessed. What does that formally look like?
That's different, and we'll get to that. Well, that's in here too. We'll get to that, but it's not just meant for people of, and that's why this document is so, I think, so beautiful. It's not just same-sex people that this is geared towards. It's sinners. It's people who need salvation. It's people who need to be redeemed. It's people who need to find a better path in life.
As Keith brought up, here, particularly in the U.S., that has been a huge sticking point. Even here in the Cleveland Diocese.
Absolutely.
We've had, what was that proclamation that they put out?
Oh, the gender identity document for the high schools, like you're not allowed to say you're gay or else.
Well, it's true. It's true. I would go a step further, though. I mean, they almost put them in the same lot as crackheads. And when we say crackheads, notice that there's a slight hardness of our own hearts. When we say crackheads, we're looking at somebody who's a little less than human, right? But why are they a little less than human? I mean, don't they have the same value as us? So, and I love that he went there in here, and he's talking about rehabilitation centers, right? He's talking about people in prisons. He's talking about people who society looks at as irredeemable. You're murderers, you're rapists, but they're still human.
Of course.
And there's something in them that is that still God touches.
Yes.
Right? And so I love the fact that this is meant towards everybody, not just same-sex unions, this is meant towards everybody who needs to come to the light.
Yeah.
And it's so beautifully written. I really do see this as a beautifully written document. Join us in part 2 for the rest of the conversation.